Unmuted, so I stay quiet. There you go. And let Mr. Lewis in. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, it is April the 6th, and we're going to have a planning commission meeting, so I call the meeting to order. And right now, could we have a roll call, please?
And Molly and Design.
Yes.
Casey Kerrigan.
Yes.
Nancy Gill.
Yes.
Josh Peck.
Yes.
And Maggie Lunsford.
Yes.
All present.
Okay, and do we have an approval of this agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
All in favor? I apologize. I always think I'm going to get minutes done, and I just never seem to do it. So you'll have those next month, all of them. I'll send them to you 2 weeks in advance so you can have one that I submitted them. That's minutes. Molly, as town councilor, is there anything that we need to know that council is talking about that pertains to us?
Excellent.
Well, good. Does not have anything to do with you. So, it's public forum. If you're here to speak to something that is not on the agenda, now is your chance. Good. And now public hearing on our Scottsville comprehensive plan and zoning map amendments. This has been a few years in the making. And those who have been following know that we've had, I believe, 6 community engagement sessions. We had the Boys and Girls Club come. We talked to the Scottsville Elementary School kids, I believe, twice. They actually sat up here. They elected to get there and students and they were meeting. So that was part of the content background. I'm going to introduce Lincoln Lewis, who has been instrumental in this document.
Turning on live captioning for accessibility, just so we can understand better what's being said for hard of hearing.
Yes.
Well, I can see the live caption. Since there's no mics like this. I don't know if it picks up.
It may not pick it up, but
I don't know how to Zoom people.
there are mics, so they do have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So at this time, I would like to have Lincoln Lewis give his presentation on what several of us have been working on the past 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Nancy. Can you hear me?
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, thank you.
It's just double checking everything.
And I also sent a request to share my screen if I can. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think I allowed you
Okay, awesome.
to. You got it. You don't get it.
Okay, and everyone can hear me now?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Him? Yes, so
Well, the actual presentation.
there you go.
Hold on, I'm having trouble going to presenter view. Let me try one more time.
I'm gonna remove the pin on me.
There we go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me try to get into presenter view a different way.
You may only have so much space because we have the captions on, so they're all on.
Okay. Well, I'm having trouble going to presenter view from my computer. I've never had this happen before. But I'll just zoom in here and maybe that'll be okay for everyone for now. Yeah, I'm clicking on presenter view. It's not working. Anyway, okay. So, yes, glad to be with everyone today for the public hearing for the amended comprehensive plan and zoning map. Here's the proposed agenda for this presentation. First, I'll cover for us why a comprehensive plan and zoning map, why we're doing this process. And then I'd like to acknowledge a lot of people and, talk about this process that's lasted about 3 years. Then talk about the firsts for the town. This process has had a lot of firsts. Then I'll talk about the organization of the comprehensive plan document. I'll provide a brief summary of the content. Also go through some editorial parameters and amendments that we have in our process today for the resolution. And then lastly, potential next steps for the comprehensive plan. But first, I'll note that this is just a summary presentation for the public hearing. Information contained in the relevant codes, regulations, and ordinances, or the draft amended comprehensive plan and amended zoning map shall take precedence over any visual or verbal communication made during this presentation today. Just the fine print there. Thanks so much. Okay, so back to why a comprehensive plan and zoning map. So basically, the town of Scottsville's current comprehensive plan was approved in 2018. And it's gone through a lot of different revisions over the years. You can see here on the cover page, it was adopted in 1994 to begin with, then revised in 1999, 2002, 2005, 2008, 2013, and 2018 is the latest, like I mentioned. So it's gone through a lot of wordsmithing. And through this process, the Planning Commission discovered that we had better take a closer look at all the goal setting within the document. And I'll explain that process throughout the presentation today. But overall, the Commonwealth of Virginia requires jurisdictions such as towns like Scottsville to create a comprehensive plan to govern physical development of the town. So a comp plan, as they're referred to, is regularly updated. And this is the amendment process that we're going through today. So, basically a jurisdiction's planning commission is in charge of updating the comprehensive plan. And then they propose the comprehensive plan to the town council for consideration. So just to make everyone aware, this is just the first step in a two-stage process. I'll go through that later today. But overall, a lot of these requirements are all laid out in the Code of Virginia. So if you're interested, you can go through these different sections that I mentioned. And it's really in Article 3, the comprehensive plan. Okay. And this is all online if you're interested at Virginia law, called the Code of Virginia. Okay, but just to break that down a little bit more, you can see on this screenshot of the Code of Virginia of that Article 3, all the different requirements, just the sections. And within this, there's a lot of text. So the planning commissioners and I have gone through this process of looking what the requirements are. And we've noticed that the town has had to create some new aspects in this comprehensive plan to comply with these requirements. For instance, a transportation plan was created to comply. And next is, why a zoning map? Why are we talking about a zoning map today? So a zoning map is also required by the Code of Virginia, and basically it governs the development of the town together with the ordinances. Okay, so a zoning map is kind of the pictorial view of the zoning ordinances that a town has. So that's why we are updating the zoning map together with the comprehensive plan and all other maps in the document. We did find some issues with the drawings in the existing comprehensive plan. For instance, they're very blurry, hard to read. Colors were not clear, so on and so forth. So that's why we are restating the zoning map. Okay. So next, I'd like to go through acknowledgements and share a little bit about our process. So in terms of acknowledgements, as Nancy mentioned, as many people have been contributing to the comprehensive plan development process. And we've had community members at engagement events. We've had many volunteers, town staff, planning commissioners, town councilors, and even the mayor has been actively involved. I'd just like to thank Nancy, of course, because she's the person that brought me to Scottsville. And I was able to start this process with the Planning Commission. Also, Lisa Caltabiano, the former planning chair, and also Molly, who's also a former planning chair and who's been the planning commissioner that has been with us the entire process. So thank you so much, Molly. I'd also like to give a shout out to Bill Heisen for his attention to detail throughout our process, and also Mayor Ron for coming to meetings periodically and giving support for this elongated process. Yeah. And basically, I'd just like to highlight that this is a co-produced process between the planning commissioners and myself as community planning fellow for the town. This is a rare process where the planning commissioners are actually writing, they're doing editing, they're actively contributing ideas, we're bouncing things against the wall. And this has really been a great process, but because of that, it's been taking a long time, and we're all at this point volunteers. So just want to lay this out to everyone. But you can see some of these images at the bottom, the children on the left-hand side from the Boys and Girls Club, and an event we had on growth in the middle there, you can see. And then on the right-hand side, a recent engagement event with Scottsville Elementary's third graders. And you can see Mayor Ron together with the third grade elected mayor, and also Mr. Gritzko, who's leading the engagement and also the tour that we've been providing. It's become an annual event since we started for the comprehensive plan. So I'm very glad to do that, to see that. Okay, so in terms of the key process considerations, we started the community engagement plan by University of Virginia students, was created in fall of 2022. And then the Planning Commission commenced the actual rewrite process of the comprehensive plan at their May 1st, 2023 meeting. So it's been almost 3 years. Yeah. I started at the May 2023 meeting. And basically, we've had pretty much monthly meetings since then. We might have skipped a meeting here or there for a holiday or other matters, but we've also had ad hoc special meetings by the Planning Commission, and we've also had small group discussions on writing text, thinking about ideas, so on and so forth. And those have been together with maximum two planning commissioners and myself. So we've had a lot of deliberation on this. Okay. And then other key considerations, we've had an extensive community engagement process with events and also a survey. We have focused on putting images in the comprehensive plan. This has taken a tremendous amount of time. I think none of us really expected how long it would do to select the right image to go along with the text in different parts of the comprehensive plan. Also, we've been focusing on the organization of the comp plan and clearly editing the document. So I'd like to also thank several planning commissioners like Casey and Maggie for sitting down with a fine-tooth comb and editing the document. Yeah. Also, we've been focusing on the audiences of the comprehensive plan. For instance, when Maggie came on board recently, she suggested that we look at these audiences and spell them out, and we've actually been doing that the whole process, but we never really thought about explaining it that way. So thanks for Maggie's fresh approach. We quickly added that to the executive summary of the document to explain our approach that we've gone at through the whole time, actually. Okay, another key thrust has been looking at these maps. I mentioned that they were blurry, hard to read, different colors, so on and so forth. So we basically totally redid the maps from original GIS data from the counties, restating the parcels. Some of the parcels are new. For instance, the Bird Street development has new parcels that weren't in the former zoning maps. So these are a full set of new maps for the town. And also, the comprehensive plan lays out a very clear process. So the strategic plan of the town was developed in parallel with the beginning of the comprehensive plan. So typically, the strategic plan goes first, then the comprehensive plan, and then after that, updating the ordinances of the town to follow the comprehensive plan. So currently, Scottsville is following this process, and it is also a cyclical process. You can see that dash gray arrow around that, approximately every 5 years or so, this process should repeat. So I'd also like to take a moment to mention the firsts for the town that this comprehensive plan has created. So basically, as I mentioned, the town developed its first strategic plan during this process. We also developed the first capital improvements program that is required by the Code of Virginia. We also developed the first transportation plan for the town as required by the Code of Virginia. We developed the framework plan, and I'll explain a little bit later what that is. We also developed a decision-making framework, and we're designating urban development areas, which is named a community planning area for the town. We also created a transfer of development rights opportunity for the northeast of town. And even planning commissioners during this process went out with GPS trackers to hike in the different nature areas of town and document the trails that are needed to be conserved. So this all contributed to the comprehensive plan. And also the process has won 2 statewide awards from the American Planning Association. Yeah. Alrighty. So next I'll move on to talk about the organization of the comprehensive plan. So as I mentioned earlier, we really focused on the organization. You can see it all here on one page, but I'll zoom in on the different sections in the next slides. Okay, so we basically have 6 sections plus the appendix documents. So starting off at the beginning, we'll have in the upper right-hand corner on this slide, you'll see the acknowledgements, the executive summary, and the resolution that actually adopts the comprehensive plan. The eventual resolution by town council will be all recorded there. Then we have the introduction section and then the profile of the town. And I'll give brief overview of the contents of these a little bit later. Then we have community engagement, and we specifically included this section up front, and also the recording, the actual the notes of the engagement sessions, because we really value everyone's input, even though it might not seem that we considered some of the aspects, they're all recorded there as much as possible. Moving on to Scottsville's principles and goals. This is a section focusing on that goal setting. And then the future land use and zoning. This is where the rubber hits the road, where those ordinances are proposed. And then lastly, the implementation prioritization process. What do we do next with the comprehensive plan? And also the appendix documents that I mentioned. The list of boxes, figures, and credits, maps, and tables is at the very rear. And then we have reference sources, basically citations of different documents that we reference. So everyone can have a clear understanding of what those documents are. Okay, so now I'll shift to giving a brief summary of this content. Okay, so in the introduction, we really lay out the Planning Commission's process and considerations for the plan for the town. And then even Mr. Gritzko, who was on the Planning Commissioner as the liaison and now has stepped to the focus on the town council. He brought recently to us a very important quote by Marguerite Ross Barrett, who's buried in Scottsville, and she's the first Black woman to lead a major university in America, the University of Houston. So we took this quote from her gravestone as inspiration to our process. But basically, you know, that we've really focused on being inclusive in this comprehensive plan and recording the history, but also focusing on a path forward for the town. But this section also includes a lot about the Commonwealth of Virginia requirements. And on the right-hand side is just one illustration of these hiking paths that I mentioned earlier that Commissioners Gill and Kerrigan went out to track with their GPS watches. And this is, I think, really innovative for planning commissioners to get out and do. And then this was translated into from the GPS coordinates into GIS. It was incorporated into our mapping process. So you can see on the right-hand side the topography layers that we obtained from Albemarle County. We're superimposing that with the streams, the buffers to the streams that are part of the ordinance, and also the hiking trails to kind of get a better understanding of land use for the town. Okay, the next section of the comprehensive plan really focuses on the profile of the town. It talks about the history of the town and how that affects the planning. And that includes information such as demographics, population projections, so on and so forth. Okay. Then we also talk about regional partnerships. And then you can see on the map at the right how Scottsville is really a hub in the rural region. Okay. And we also talk about our different partners that we need to talk with and collaborate. For instance, Albemarle County, Fluvanna County, and Buckingham County. Scottsville, as many of us know, is a really unique place because it sits within two counties, one of only, I believe, three towns to do that in all of Virginia. Okay, but at the same time, we reviewed a lot of documents, and we did discover recently that the Albemarle County had updated their comprehensive plan, and they had designated an urban development area within Scottsville and also a county development area within the town. So this is not really the typical process in terms of the Code of Virginia. The Code of Virginia says that the town needs to designate an urban development area first. And also the Planning Commission of the town has the sole jurisdiction here. The Albemarle County Planning Commission has no jurisdiction here. Okay, there's no overlap. So the comprehensive plan recommends that we have further conversations with Albemarle County to hash these matters out. But also at the same time, the comprehensive plan lays out a regional development policy for the town. Instead of potential development happening on the outskirts of town, outside of town, we suggest that any development be focused inside the town, where it can be best managed and also have access to sewer and water. Okay, so this is just the ordinance here on the right-hand side that outlines, AC 44's document. The page is DALU, page 6, that shows that the town of Scottsville is designated as a county development area, and also the town of Scottsville is designated as a UDA, urban development area in Albemarle County. So thanks, Molly, for highlighting this recently. I really appreciate that. Okay, so also in terms of the profile of town, the existing land use and zoning is described. We also outline the historic resources, the environmental resources, and public infrastructure and services. And we describe those three aspects with maps. Again, the community engagement section really focuses on our process. We have the survey results and we summarize those. We summarize all the community engagement events. We include photos where possible. And like I mentioned, the Scottsville Elementary third graders was really a highlight along with the James River Boys and Girls Club engagement. Not only did we invite them to the town office to conduct engagement events about environmental systems for the town, but also about the comprehensive plan. And we also provided a tour to the youngsters. So this is really a rewarding experience. Okay, the next section talks about Scottsville's principles and goals. And in my opinion, this is the most important. We had found that the previous comprehensive plan and revisions before that even had really been wordsmithed a lot. So they said a lot, but the messaging wasn't really honed. So we set out a clear vision statement. We also aligned with the town's new strategic plan at the time. And we created this weaving approach, which has the principles on the left and then the goals at the top. And then they naturally have intersections. So this is a decision-making framework or a matrix. Okay. So goal 1, build out infrastructure. Goal 2, provide housing choices. Goal 3, create community connections. And goal 4, demonstrate value and fiscal well-being. These are the finances of the town. And then the underlying principles that need to be weighed against these goals. Principle 1, retain small town character. Principle 2, foster environmental stewardship. And principle 3, enable growth. So naturally through this process, you can see at these intersections, deliberations can happen. So here is the actual decision-making framework. And at the intersections, we proposed 2 recommendations each. And this was also a prioritization tool for us. It's easy to make many, many recommendations here and there, but we really focused on providing 2 recommendations per intersection. Okay. And then each goal, each of the 4 goals has its overarching recommendation. And this is really a tool that can be used for the town in the future. There's a lot of unforeseen challenges that will likely arise. And Using this, you can think about how can we build out infrastructure for a certain project while also retaining small town character, while we're also fostering environmental stewardship for the town's resources. But at the same time, how can we also enable growth? Yeah. Because we did find from the survey for the town that a vast majority of the town actually prefers growth. It just depends where the growth is and what type of growth it is. Okay. Moving on, in section 5, the future land use and zoning, we first started off with the framework plan, which lays out the vision and the future aspirations of land use for the town, but it doesn't use constraints such as parcelation. So these are, you can see on the map at the right, blobs basically. So through this process, we're really focusing on various different areas in the town. I'll just talk about one, the upper northeast of town, where those hiking trails were recorded by Commissioners Gill and Kerrigan. We really focused a lot on how can we record those hiking trails, but also think about land use in relation to those hiking trails. So you can see those blobby areas in the northeast. And through this process, we were sorting out the future land use. For instance, we're proposing a new residential land use. It's called multi-unit residential, which would be denser than town residential. We're also proposing a mixed use area, which would be basically downtown and in the west downtown area, and a small bit in the uptown area. And in the downtown area, this mixed use area would basically replace the commercial, because commercial in the uptown or midtown areas is intrinsically different than the commercial downtown, the Planning Commission thinks. Okay, next, the future land use and zoning section. So basically, this future land use map on the right-hand side really focuses on what would this future land use be? This is basically the potential next zoning map. Okay. Through this process, we developed a potential transfer of development rights. This would allow a landowner to potentially procure development density in one area of this green hatched area, and then shift that density to those land use areas that have the Astras in the northeast of town. The main intention of this is to preserve those natural systems such as the hiking trails, and also provide recreation areas as allowed for by the Code of Virginia. Okay, but I'd just like to mention briefly that all of these potential zoning changes and future land use changes are not actually being implemented by the comprehensive plan. Those would be separate actions by the Planning Commission and the Town Council at a later date, after the comprehensive planning process is completed. Okay. The last section here is implementation prioritization. Okay, section 6. And this lays out the proposed next steps after we complete the comprehensive plan. So as we've mentioned in this diagram on the right-hand side, I'll just restate that updating zoning ordinances is the most important next. Okay. So step 1 is update the ordinances, first by filling gaps in the requirements, then strengthening key clauses, and then later checking for discrepancies between different ordinances. Number 2, refine the requirements for detailed land use areas. There's certain areas that are indicated within the town in those future land use plan that needs more detailed planning, the Planning Commission thinks. Okay. Those are likely high development areas, areas that will have a lot of attention and have special considerations. Okay. And then number 3, strengthen the town finances, working with partners, but also applying for grants, potentially hiring a grant writer or a grant administrator. This all goes back to that capital improvement program. How can the town invest in infrastructure every fiscal year? So after 5 years or so, they have enough money to implement a sidewalk project, for instance. And lastly, implement those physical development projects. Everything in the comprehensive plan points to planning and then later implementing. But first, we have to get the house in order for the town. That includes the ordinances and even the finances, and then the town should be better equipped to implement projects. Okay, and the very last section is the appendix documents. This includes the transportation plan, which I mentioned is a requirement by the Virginia Department of Transportation that we've consulted. They've sent us comments in certified letter, basically. And then capital improvement program is also included there. And then the standalone printable sheets of the maps, plans, and decision-making framework are included. So these plans and decision-making framework are also included in the main document, but we have printable sheets that are 11 by 17 size. So they're even easily readable. Okay, coming to the end here, I'll just mention briefly about the editorial parameters and amendments process for the comprehensive plan. Okay. So basically, you know, the Planning Commission and myself have worked really hard on this document over the last 3 years. And it's a complex document. Basically, you know, there could be minor errors or inaccuracies in the document. You know, we were just looking at the executive summary a couple of days ago. We saw a missed word. And we've looked at the executive summary a lot. So there are those potential issues in the document. And this process is laid out here, what we can change in the document without having to go through all of the public hearings and so on and so forth. So we can amend the content attribution, amend cross-referencing, digital file conversion. For instance, if there's an issue with a PDF that's uploaded on the website, we can amend the font, the typography. We can focus on graphic legibility, so on and so forth. Pagination issues, reference list issues, spelling, grammar, syntax, typos or punctuation errors, updates to names, resolutions, ordinances, or codes that might have changed or were errors to begin with in the document. And lastly, any clarifications that does not alter the intent or substance of the document's intentions. However, at the same time, you know, there's things that we cannot change, which would be, you know, changes in overall messaging, changes in intent, or changes to the zoning map in terms of colors or land uses. Of course, those would have to go through the formal hearing process, okay, as required by the Code of Virginia. So those editorial clarifications and that process is outlined in the draft resolution that has been prepared for the comprehensive plan. Also, this list of amendments. You know, we finalized this comprehensive plan document for this hearing around March 17th. And since then, we've had a time to not only take a rest, but also look at it with fresh eyes. So these are 4 amendments that we intend to make based on this resolution. Page I is basically moving the copyright page to the rear of the document, just to free up the front of the document and make it clear, to streamline it. Then pages 42 and 122, we understand from Albemarle County Service Authority that they're generally agreeable with us showing water and sewer infrastructure on our map. It's called the Public Infrastructure and Services Map. This has been a long discussion with them, but now they're generally agreeable but we need to further talk with them. So we will endeavor to include that infrastructure information on the map for everyone's reference, including potential developers, so they can see the sewer and water provisions that the town has access to, okay, at potential parcels that they could develop with that access. Pages 47 through 49, this is basically an area where we need to elaborate the comprehensive plan survey findings a little bit more, okay? And page 11, this was a really recent issue that came to head about view corridors. So as you might be aware, there's a potential high tension electrical line that might be coming near Scottsville. So this got a bunch of us interested in what could happen. How can the comprehensive plan manage view corridors or view sheds? Okay. So this would be an update, basically additional text on page 11. We might have to remove an image to fit that in there. Yeah. Okay, and of course, as the blue text at the bottom says, any other requested updates by the Planning Commission at the meeting. Yeah. Okay, and lastly, I'd like to talk about potential next steps. So this last slide here. The Planning Commission will likely vote today on the resolution whether to recommend the amended comprehensive plan and amended zoning map to Town Council. If the resolution is approved, then the document will be finalized for Town Council review. So that means we need to go through the editorial parameters. For instance, I recommend we do one more edit of the document, and I also need to update the different hyperlinks and so on and so forth in the document. And we need to make those 4 amendments that were just listed or any other amendments that are proposed today by the Planning Commission. Then Town Council will need to consider the material. Notices made, notices they need to notice their public hearing. They need to notice the different jurisdictions that could be affected by the comprehensive plan. And then another public meeting would be held. That would be another opportunity for the public to comment, other than today, of course. And then the Town Council will need to vote to approve the material. If they don't approve the material, then they need to send it back to the Planning Commission with comments, okay? And then the Planning Commission would need to reconsider those comments and make any revisions they feel necessary, okay? So then the process basically starts again in terms of public hearing, so on and so forth. But you know, another alternative could be that the Town Council and the Planning Commission could have a joint hearing at that stage, yeah, to save time and also notice the cost of notices, so on and so forth. Okay, well, that's a very brief overview of our very extensive document. If you have any questions or anything else I can elaborate, I'd be glad to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Now that Houston's presentations are coming to anyone who would like to add or ask anything about before we go into the public hearing?
I think we've all contributed to our questions. But if you want to have some.
Okay, well, in that case, I will open this up to the public hearings. Anyone who would like to address us or have comments, please talk to us.
I always.
I know.
Hello. I'm Maria, Town resident for almost 26 years. Thank you all for the incredible, evident amount of work that this was. It is clear that this has taken a long time. There's a lot of work. In my 25 years in Scottsville, there's been very little change. And if we want positive change, and if you want all your work to come to fruition without going back and back again, I recommend for any change, just basic tenets of change management, that you communicate. And that has not been done yet. I mean, I sent most of y'all a message last night, like, thank you, Nancy. Oh, this is happening. You know, we were busy guys, we're commuters, you know, we're family exercise class. You know, always aware of what's going on. The website is just woefully inadequate for community. I tried very hard to find this plan when I couldn't get the link to share it with my family members. And I couldn't find it. It wasn't linked from the agenda. Couldn't find it to my planning commission side. I could find the current plan. Right, thank you. Because when I got the plan, my internet fault. I sent something this morning. Yeah. It was 130 something pages long. I had a conversation with Paul about it. Paul was very helpful, but it's a lot. It's a lot for us to digest and understand the impact. And when you want people to accept change to them, you have to communicate very clearly to them what the impact is for them, what's in it for them. This is just a basic thing of change management. So I asked, communicate this better. Signs with the QR code that's shareable around town. Like, leave a flyer on residence stores. We get notices about moving our cars for 4th of July. Like, someone could come and leave us a notice about something that's so much bigger than that. You know, library signs, store signs. Have a a handout available of the proposed map. Have a handout, a hard copy available for those who may not have internet data of your framework for decision making. That's really cool. Let's make that easily accessible and not buried in a 130-page document. So that is my request. Like, this could be really cool, it could be really great, but it's not going to be if someone finally gets hold of it and looks at like, I'm not going to read this 130. I mean, I would say start with important stuff, like lead with your call to action and don't bury the what's in it for me at the bottom of the plan personally. Like, maybe that's an appendix, but those are my suggestions. After that, you know, my question is, how, you know, I love that one of the goals is to not diminish the quality of life for residents. Like, this is one of our goals. We don't want to do that. I just wonder how that can be written into an ordinance somehow. Like, how will that be enforced? Like, how can we measure that? How can we manage that? How can we enforce that? And we can't even get a link to work. Thank you.
I actually don't live in Scottsville. I live just up the road on County Drive, you go to Third Street. Looking at the plan and just the document, I would say get to the meeting of the document right off. All this stuff about the process, the acknowledgement and all that, we put all that in the appendix so that somebody opening up the plan gets to what they really want to know. They want to know the goals and the process, what you actually changing, and maps, so that it's comprehensible in a very short, not on many page document.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we did talk about that kind of thing, we did. So, but, we wanted to assure people, we had followed some of the basic things that in the past about community engagement. So it was a toss up. Just because we wanted to assure everyone that we went through a lot of process to get to all that. But I hear you. I mean, the ABCs of conflict, just a separate. So
The other way to do that is to write a more detailed executive summary so that people can get to the meat of it without going through many pages. So those are the two things that I would suggest.
thank you so much. Haley, did you have any questions yourself?
So, no, people, is there anyone else who would like to speak? This is the citizen.
Hello, I'm Kit. I've lived here exactly the same number of days as Maria. We've been here for 26 years. I would like to repeat what she said. Thank you for your service, for your detail, for your vision, for your care of where this town will be in 20 years' time. I think it's essential to have that vision. I think about the change that we have seen in the past, and it's been quite limited. There were things that have been neglected that haven't changed. I think of the factory, the Canal Basin warehouse, the train station that have been right for development, for change, to change and to complete the character of this town. Talk about the small town character. Yeah, right at the heart of the town, there are 3 wrecks. But every so often we've had faith and hope in this town. It's on the cusp of change. That something is going to really revolutionize it. It's still going to be the small town with the people that we know, the people we recognize from classes and from jobs and from petting. We want to be able to retain that and develop and improve the quality of just walking around town, what we see. There have been 2 things which we should acknowledge that people have achieved. And that's the Vancouver nature area. It's been a huge boom for the town. The building of the farms. But that's not been very much really. Yeah. But we get the sense that something big could happen again. That seasonal optimism that, oh, it's going to turn the corner, we're going to start earning money, the businesses are going to stay, the restaurants are going to stay open through the winter. But it doesn't quite happen, but I get the sense now that, yet, there is big change. And it really needs to be managed. And is there such a thing as sustainable development? Or do we open the doors and suddenly we get flooded and there's houses and McDonald's all over the place? It's difficult. It's difficult. That's why I thank you for your work, for your thought. I also want to know who's going to manage this change, because we have not a lot of money, a group of dedicated volunteers, but that's listed as one of the threats or the weaknesses. Not enough volunteers, and even smart, dedicated, willing people just can't manage change on scale with a lot of professional, expert, long-term vision and understanding what the town is. So again, thank you. That's no shame.
It covered it. Well, then in that case, I shall close the public hearing and now let's have a discussion on what they have said to us, and I think Lincoln has paid close attention to this. So, commissioners, your thoughts?
I think lots about the fact that it's kind of hard to get to the information can be looked at. I think, yeah, there's a lot to go through when the beginning of the document, but I think someone has in some way or rearranging it could be a possibility.
Lincoln.
Yeah, I think I heard what Molly said, that rearranging could be a possibility. Yeah, we've tried many different organization strategies to make the document as clear as possible, but also include all the requirements by the state of Virginia. One thing I didn't mention earlier was we've also focused on hyperlinking the document a lot. So, for instance, the table of contents, let me just pull that up here. The table of contents is all hyperlinked. So if you click on a certain page, you could easily jump to that page. So let me just share the screen here. Okay. Can you see my presenter view?
Yeah.
Sorry. There, you can see this now. Okay. So if you click on any one of these pages or the titles for those pages, we can automatically jump to that in the PDF. I think that's important to note as a strategy to make the document a little bit more digestible. Yeah. Yes, we could in the executive summary bring out a few more of the highlights. For instance, we do mention the principles and goals very clearly. However, we don't show it as a diagram. Let me just go back to the document itself. I'll share my screen here to answer a few more questions, and through that also talking about the organization. So while Maria was speaking, one aspect was about growth, and then the second gentleman that spoke, he was also talking about change. So I'd like to mention the population of the town is considered in the document. If you look at page 17, currently, as of the last census, the population of Scottsville is 524. And the current comp plan has been saying that the population of Scottsville is going to be 1,000 people, and it's been saying that for a long time. And Scottsville is still far from 1,000 people. But we do think that there's going to be a lot of change happening in the potential near future. For instance, the area around Tiger Fuel and Tiger Wash is potentially going to be developed. The Tiger Factory could potentially have a new proposal made. And also the greenfield development sites in the northeast of town could yield a tremendous amount of housing for the town. If the developer and the owners of those parcels decide to move forward with that. And they could move forward tomorrow with a by right proposal. They could go out and build houses. However, the town and the planning commission feels that there could be a better opportunity for the town than just a by right proposal of houses on one or two parcels, so it should be 1 or 2 acres, very large parcels. So that's why the comprehensive plan basically proposes the town to densify residential development in the northeast to retain a lot of natural areas, including those hiking trails and other things like the running cedar, so on and so forth that Nancy and Casey found. So also the comprehensive plan, in terms of change, also records the historical population of Scottsville. You can see the town in 1950 was 396 people, and up until 1990, the town population actually dropped to 239. However, in 1994, that's when the boundary increase happened for the town, and that's when the population jumped to 593. However, since 2000, the population has been declining again to 524. Okay, so these are the background demographic considerations overall in terms of population for the comprehensive plan. And I agree, Maria, that if we could write an ordinance to ensure that the quality of life is not diminished in the town, that'd be the golden goose. I think every town or city in America wants to do that. However, we can't write one specific ordinance to do that. But this entire comprehensive plan is all about heading in that direction. And maybe I'll just pull up the vision statement of the comprehensive plan. That really is aiming towards that, I believe. And that's why the Planning Commission chose this vision statement. But let me just share my screen here. Yep, you're seeing it now. Okay, so Scottsville will protect its natural assets, history, and small town character while making decisions informed by thorough community engagement processes and inclusive planning practices, with the vision of improving the well-being of all town residents and promoting a higher quality of life for the wider community. So I think a lot of those ideas in terms of livability, so on and so forth that you mentioned, Maria, are included upfront here in the executive summary and in the vision statement that's explained later in the rear of the document. Yeah, I also agree communication is extremely important, Maria, and we endeavor to do our very best. However, we do have limitations as volunteers. I think we complied, to my knowledge, with all the notices required for this meeting. And the flyer that I prepared and then Nancy was handing out is just kind of an over and above thing that we were doing. Of course, we wish we would have done that 2 weeks ago, but we are just so exhausted from finalizing the document. I needed to take a break and do other things in my life, just like the other planning commissioners did. And because the planning commissioners really worked hard on reviewing the materials and also editing the document, like I mentioned, copy editing it. So I really appreciate that.
Can I
And
ask a question, Mr. Lewis? Is that allowed? Um, yes, you may.
I'm just wondering why the compressed timeline, if you all were exhausted and you needed some breathing room and maybe needed more time for our paid staff to get this published and on the website. Like, is there something happening that this needs to happen immediately? Well, what is the?
One thing that our staff has been undergoing for the
I
past,
can hear it's a lot.
the past couple of weeks, there has been a transition from one website provider to a second.
Right.
And that just happened. And that's probably the reason why it's hard to find this document on the list.
So all the reason like why the rush, if those constraints are in place. To not get that information out more. I don't know, is there something happening that this needs to?
No, I think our strategy was to get this to town council because they need to go through it as well. And this would give us more time to push it out to a wider audience.
Yes, the town council meeting on this, the public hearing will likely not be for an entire month. Because if the planning commission recommends this to town council, they won't take it up until their next meeting, and then they need to go through the notice period. They need to post it on the website again, so on and so forth. So it will take still a long time. And as I mentioned, we've already spent 3 years on this. And yes, people have been commenting that we need to move faster. So we try to move methodically at a good pace. Yes, the website switchover raised some challenges. Also, I'll mention if others are not aware that the town of Scottsville has really only had one full-time staff in the office for quite a while. Then Whitney came on as the clerk very recently. Previously, she was working part-time. So these are all administrative challenges. I was only paid for like the first 9 months or so of this process, and I've been volunteering a lot ever since. And we just endeavor to do our best, as I mentioned earlier. And I'm doing my PhD on community engagement and community planning at University of Virginia. So, I'm aware of the pitfalls of all these processes, and we just try our best based on that, like I mentioned. And I thank you, Maria, for your comment on the really cool framework. Yes, we think it is quite good for the town. Yeah, also. I'll just go back to the process that was mentioned in terms of potentially reorganizing the document. I would suggest that we forward this to town council to also get their views. We can record all these comments, of course, in the minutes of the meeting. And then the town council can consider that together as one package, because town council might also be considering some other comments that we don't know about yet. They've been reviewing the document, to my understanding. And then we can consider all the comments together if town council so chooses. Yep. Then also,
if town council changes the document, it has to come back to us. And so, you better believe me, we can be first on the list to get the document. No,
I just, my point is,
no,
if you want your word to, something
Yes.
that's your heart out it. I know how my neighbors work and, they need time, they need help digesting it and they need time. And they don't want to feel like it's been, slipped under the rug.
Right.
Like, just really transparent and helping people understand.
well, I think we have probably 2 to 3 months before it. So it could be another year.
Nancy, I'll mention there's a person on the Zoom that would like to comment. I don't think had an opportunity. They sent a message a while back.
Oh, sorry, Lincoln, thank you so much. I'm paying so much attention to you. So Heather, would you like to speak, take your mic off and speak, or would you like me to read? She's saying that it's incredibly hard to hear most of the conversation on Zoom, but
Yeah, can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me okay. I didn't want to jump in before because I wasn't sure if you all would even hear me. Can you hear me okay?
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I just sometimes it's very unaudible. Like right now it's more clear and I don't know what the difference is, why sometimes it's really hard to hear. I don't know if it's a sound level in there or depending on who's speaking, the distance they are from location, but just heads up, sometimes it is so hard and I've been on the Zoom a lot. And it's just something that I think we need to make sure that it's definitely accessible for everyone to be able to hear. But the main question I was wondering about is I know you mentioned that VDOT has been, connected with looking at the planning. And I just am wondering when it comes to a larger proposal from these bigger companies like Southern, are we getting a full traffic study done? Or are we just relying on a more simple one that VDOT does, or just relying on VDOT doing it at all? What are we planning? And is that in there somewhere in the planning that we will have a full traffic study for the town?
Well, thanks so much, Heather. These are great comments. I agree that the microphone is always hard to hear. I used to live in Charlottesville and attend in person, but now I'm remote. So yeah, the town always endeavors to
Totally.
increase the microphone quality. But I think you raise a really good point about VDOT and traffic requirements. So the comprehensive plan itself cannot impose a traffic impact assessment on developments. That's why the next step is writing an ordinance about it. So we have a recommendation in the comprehensive plan that all developments of a certain size are required to do a traffic impact assessment because the current requirements by the state, so on and so forth, are for very large developments. But Scottsville is a different context. A large development for us is a little bit different than a large development for Charlottesville, for instance, right? So that's why that's a specific recommendation, and then that's why it's so important for the planning commission next to really update those ordinances in coordination with the town council. I'll also mention in terms of VDOT, we consulted them thoroughly because we had been watching what happened in Charlottesville. There is ongoing litigation about Charlottesville's comprehensive plan, so on and so forth, about consulting VDOT. And then their development plan was actually thrown out for a while because of different legal proceedings. So we've been trying our very best with VDOT. And even the Code of Virginia says that jurisdictions such as us can request technical assistance from VDOT. So I highlighted this very early in 2003, July, we had a meeting with VDOT. We asked them for technical assistance and they told us no. We've been having discussions on and off with them for a long time. They've been, in my interpretation personally, bending the definition of technical assistance in different ways. Because as a small town of 524 people, we don't have the money to pay for a traffic study for these different intersections that could be impacted or that are already deficient potentially. So that's why we needed VDOT's help with this. All they would do was meet with us and tell us how to comply with what we need to provide, but they would not help us provide that material. So it was challenging, and we had some back and forth on that most recently even. We did send them the transportation plan. They did send us the comments in writing, and that's what we had to comply with. We considered those comments. We took some, we didn't take some because we couldn't comply entirely because we can't do our own traffic calculations. I'm a planner, but I don't focus that much in transportation planning. I'm not a transportation engineer. You really need a jack of all trades for this. Also, we mentioned the comprehensive plan that vast majority of the requirements for comprehensive plans for Scottsville, the same requirements that Richmond has to follow. There's just a few more mass transit requirements that Richmond has to add in. But other than that, how can a town of 524 have basically the same requirements as Richmond? You see, there's a different capacity and resources there.
No,
Um,
absolutely. And it seems like VDOT should be helping more. And that's my concern is I had heard that about VDOT. And I just am concerned that if we are in a situation where we're looking at putting in thousands potentially of homes, what are we, not thousands, but a high number. What are we how are we going to know how it's going to affect things and where we need to make those changes if we don't have a study? Is there any way to make these companies actually provide the study? I mean, is that something that we could put into the plan, that that's an expectation of any company coming into town, or is that not allowed?
No, basically the purpose of the comprehensive plan is um, any future proposed development has to, especially development that is contrary to the intentions of the zoning map, let's say a special use permit, they have to analyze their proposal versus the comprehensive plan. So, for instance, if the comprehensive plan recommends low density in an area and a landowner wants to put high density, they have to describe how they can achieve high density while also achieving these other principles and goals that we have in the document. But we don't actually impose requirements through the comprehensive plan specifically. So let me just find in the document to highlight your question, traffic impact.
I don't
Okay.
I don't want to hold you all up too. I know we have time to discuss this, but it's just something that I think is very crucial for a town, having the flow of traffic we have and being with the one and only bridge. And if we don't have other exits through town, I think it's, it's something we really have to worry about, unfortunately. And I just, that's the main reason I bring it up, because I do want to make sure that's something that is fully on the table, where we can make sure it does happen and we make sure that we don't mess ourselves up. So, but I do understand you don't have to feel, I do not mind, getting into this later. I don't want to hold everyone up. So thank you though.
Well, but this is a really important point. I'm glad you asked it.
Oh, I'm glad.
So here on the screen, you can hopefully see the key recommendation of this goal of one, build out infrastructure, is to require sizable projects conduct a traffic impact analysis. And then one question is, what is a sizable project? As I mentioned earlier, that's not for us to decide at this stage. That would be during the ordinance drafting stage. So already this has taken us 3 years. But this just highlights out the next step, and then the planning commission would have to say, okay, a sizable project is defined this way, and then that would have to be adopted as a town ordinance in the zoning ordinances, and that takes time too. So, in response to other comments, you know, we don't have a specific deadline, but we do understand that getting out this comprehensive plan as soon as possible can bear fruit and be useful for the town. And this is one great example, Heather. I really appreciate you mentioned this. If the town can sit down and write these ordinances or revise the ordinances as soon as possible, then this requirement will be on the books for certain developments. Because right now it's not on the books. It's only a state of Virginia requirement for very large projects. I hope you understand. Yeah.
No,
Thanks
that's
so
great.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioners, anything else? Concerns? Do you want to address? Anything that? Kit, I hope you're right. Because I've lived in this town a little longer than you, and it seems that we get there and then we go back. And we've done it so many times. So,
Well, I think we can't help, but go forward growth that's happening on the Bird Street development, and then followed by the consideration that would be for anything outside of for the east development. These things are going to make a change, and they're going to add people, and we're going to have to deal with infrastructure is going to be very, very important. And so all of that is very important. I think that the whole designation of the community development area was, there were a lot of reasons why we wanted to continue with that. And I think that, frankly, VDOT can deal with us a little bit more when we have that designation. Possible grants and things of that nature. So we're doing everything we can to prepare on the front end to complete these kinds of things. It's just, agencies are fickle and they're doing their thing. We're trying to do our thing. So anyway, transportation's a big issue, but when they did when they did a look at the area for the tire plant, they just said, everything's fine, you know? And we were seeing it, and now I've seen an influx of traffic since then. And I think it would be.
Yeah, the traffic study done was not done by UDOT, it was done by consultant.
Yeah, it was the
So, right, so I think moving forward, because we have actually, through Lincoln's efforts and Elizabeth's efforts, we have and we are developing a better relationship with
Because I felt like it was because we were too small, it's inconsequential.
Yeah, but I do agree that the community development designation is very important for us to get back to the table on a regular basis with UDOT.
Yeah, Molly, thanks for mentioning that. The urban development area, or phrased as a community planning area designation, is important. It doesn't give us directly any money, but it will increase our chances of obtaining potential funds from VDOT or other partners from the state levels, for instance. Yeah. So this is just one piece of our toolkit for the town to really improve our chances of and to maintain that quality of life, so on and so forth, that we've been talking about today. Thank you so much.
So I just want to say thank you. You know, you've been here 26 years. I think I've been here 4 years. And one of the things that attracted me to Scottsville was this Van Cleef and and all that green space back in there. And so I've been feeling like that's one thing that, you know, we can do, preserve that space. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You know, it doesn't cost much money. It doesn't cost money to, you know, keep our trails or just walking around them and letting people know that they're out there having fires. We're thinking about making a t-shirt. Everybody for there with the band. Yeah, that's but yeah, you know, thinking about like at least that's a part of Scottsville, that big green space, and then just preserve it, and then, you know, yeah, so then it kind of, so, you know, so we know a McDonald's is gonna go there. But, you know, and then keeping the, you know, the dense areas where they are, but then having but so just as far, you know, kind of thinking about the cost, how we do this. Maggie, do you have any comments?
No, I think blending line went most things that I in great detail.
Josh, have you?
No, I just want to say thank you to Lincoln for all the time spent on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of us, yeah.
And all of the unpaid time that you spent on this, because that is.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we're reaching the point where we need to make a decision. We have a resolution before us. And we need to vote on this. I know that we think we should wait and do more, but I think we need to move forward so that we can.
I mean, if it's just maybe it's going to town council, at some point it needs to be better publicized.
It will be tomorrow. So we have a resolution before us. Would someone please read it? I'm sorry.
So I'll also pull it up on the screen for those on Zoom, because the microphone is challenging to hear. So it's on the screen too.
I will state that the editorial parameters and the amendments were covered in Lincoln's presentation, so I don't think we need to do those. Okay. So.
Yes, we're the town of Scottsville, Virginia Planning Commission Resolution recommending amendment and approval of the comprehensive plan and zoning map. Whereas the Code of Virginia 15.2-2223 requires that the town of Scottsville's planning commission shall prepare and recommend a comprehensive plan for the physical development of the territory within its jurisdiction, and shall make careful and comprehensive surveys and studies of the existing conditions and trends of growth and of the probable future requirements of its territory and inhabitants. And whereas the planning commission has prepared the draft comprehensive plan document SB 45, Scottsville, Virginia, planning for 2045, SB 45, which incorporates an amended zoning map for the town and has the purpose for the Code of Virginia 15.2-2223 of guiding and accomplishing the coordinated, adjusted, and harmonious development of the territory that will, in accordance with present and probable future needs and resources, best promote the health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare of the inhabitants, including the elderly and persons with disabilities. And whereas the planning commission has prepared and conducted such a review of SB 45 while holding numerous consultations with relevant authorities, experts, and jurisdictions, along with organizing engagement events, work sessions, meetings, and a public hearing at which comments from members of the public were received and considered. And whereas on September 15, 2025, the draft transportation plan was provided to the Virginia Department of Transportation. The comments were received via digital letter dated October 6, 2025. Consideration was made by the planning commission and selected changes were incorporated into materials. And whereas for the attached mailing affidavit, in accordance with the Code of Virginia 15.2-2204C, administrative notice was provided for the proposed planning commission actions by post to Albemarle County, Buckingham County, Uvalde County, Albemarle County Service Authority, Nevada Authorities, and Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. And whereas the town administration duly notes in the public hearing on March 25th and April 1st, 2026, posted the proposed materials on the town's website, and the planning commission held a public hearing on April 6, 2026, as required by the Code of Virginia 15.2-2225 and 15.2-2204. And whereas the planning commission has determined that SB 45 should be adopted as the town of Scottsville's amended comprehensive plan with the amended zoning map therein, and including the editorial parameters and amendments attached hereto, and the updated document shall be sent to the town council in a reasonable duration time after carrying out editorial work and making the recorded amendments. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the planning commission at their meeting April 6, 2026, hereby approves and recommends approval of the draft of Scottsville's amended comprehensive plan and zoning map with editorial parameters and amendments attached to the town council for consideration. Is that me?
Yep, that's all for that needs to be read. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it, Casey. Yeah.
Yes, pardon, Lincoln? Oh, sorry, what did you say?
I just said thanks so much, Casey. That's great. Thanks for reading that. Yeah.
So we've read this, and now we need to make a motion to adopt it and make a recommendation.
Make a recommendation that we, or I make a motion that we, never mind. Let me restate that. Josh, could you make the motion? Sure.
I make a motion to. I make a motion to send to town council a recommendation on approval for the comprehensive plan.
I second
Yeah. I would suggest to phrase it comprehensive plan and zoning map. Yeah.
Okay.
I would suggest, yeah.
Do you want me to?
Maybe restate that. I would suggest, yeah. So comprehensive plan and zoning map. Amended comprehensive plan and zoning map.
I make a motion to move the zoning map and comprehensive plan as a recommendation of approval to town council.
Oh, I second.
Great. All right, would you like an call?
Yes.
Wonderful. Molly, as you are.
Yes, please.
Dr. Casey Fairhaven. Yes. Nancy Gill. Yes. Josh Heck.
Yes.
And Matthew Huntsman.
Is there any other business to be discussed this evening?
See you in 6 months when it comes back.
I don't know. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So we will.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone in attendance, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Welcome back.
Best. No.